live, guys. We're live. My friend, Joel Rubin, whose title is very tricky, and I just remembered it entirely. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, and I've had wine, friends. Not that I intended to have wine, and I were like, we're just going to drop the fucking 30,000 ton bazillion bomb on another country. But I just got back. I am literally walking in from a gala. Yes, a gala. I don't even know what a gala is, but I was at a gala for the Florida Democratic Party. I'm in a dress, a gown, like a literal I know it looks like wallpaper, you fucking MAGA
I'll
trolls.
give that a heart. There you go. No.
Thank you very much. But and I've had wine. I'm not gonna lie to you, friends. I wasn't expecting to be here in this moment, but in the middle of us celebrating democracy in the state of Florida, where I don't live, I went to the bathroom and I got a text message from my dear friend Rachel Vinman, also in attendance, and she said, "Hey, we bombed Iran." And I was like, "Sorry, what? What?" So I went to the bar and I got a glass of wine that big. Yes, I did. Yes, I fucking did. That was 2 glasses ago. And I said, okay. So then I said I left karaoke because they were still singing. And I was not doing Grenade because Bruno Mars can wait. But here I am. I wanted to talk to my friend, Joel Rubin, because I don't necessarily understand what the fuck is happening right now. And I can tell you this, I can hear through the walls of my hotel room that my neighbors have been listening to Donald Trump's whatever the fuck that was. I love you, God. And I need somebody to make sense of this moment. And look, we can talk all day long about whether this is good or bad or whatever in the grand sense, but landing this moment in Donald Trump's fucking lap is a whole nother conversation. So now that I've done my whole drunk intro and I'm not drunk, I am tipsy and I am not driving because I'm in a hotel because I don't have the sky painted on my regular house walls and there's not a giant erection of a guitar with a light show outside my window at home. Look it up, friends. That's the Hard Rock Cafe in Hollywood, Florida. That hotel. That's where I am in Florida. Joel, help make sense of this, please.
Well, Joe, this just goes to show you that we should never let you go to Florida or to the bathroom in Florida, because if you do, a war is going to break out. Okay.
Oh no.
Who knew?
And why comes a glass like that?
Just, stay away from Florida, please. Where to begin? Well, hi, everybody. Just I'll share a couple of thoughts on this one. You may have seen Joe and I talk about it recently, and I've been bombing my Substack on Iran policy posts over the last couple of weeks, trying to help make sense of what the heck is going on. But really, this is 10 years in the making. The reason we're bombing and why we bombed, and why President Trump decided to drop probably half a dozen 30,000-pound bombs, massive ordnance penetrators, the biggest bombs that are in our arsenal outside of nuclear weapons, is because we were up against a wall on Iran's nuclear program. And we're up against that wall because there was a decision by Trump 7 years ago to get rid of a working nuclear deal, a diplomatic arrangement that prevented Iran from getting to the point that we're at right now. So this is sort of all of Donald Trump's making, this entirety. This was a highly predictable situation, and the predictions that we would get to either having Iran on the verge of getting a weapon or having to bomb Iran if we get out of the deal, those were the binary choices President Obama put out there a decade ago, and he was right. And clearly he was right, because the choice was to bomb. Getting into what happened, I'll just quickly, Joe, because you weren't dancing at the time. Well, you were probably dancing at the time.
No dancing. No, I was in the middle. I was trying to go to the bathroom between Nikki Fried's and Cory Booker's speeches. That's what I was doing.
That's awesome. You want to be quick in between that. You don't want to miss any of that stuff at all. No. Dynamism. Super dynamos, those two. Yeah. My God. Look, so basically the rundown of tonight is that President Trump decided to authorize the deployment of several B-2 bombers to use them to fly over and bomb 3 nuclear sites, Isfahan, Fordo, and Natanz in Iran. Those are the hubs of the massive enrichment program that Iran has. And then to use Tomahawk cruise missiles as well from the Gulf to obliterate those sites. Those are sites that were enriching uranium past levels that were acceptable according to the IAEA. They were sites that had amassed a large enough quantity of enriched uranium to, if Iran had chosen to build a nuclear weapon, could build 9 to 10 within 1 to 2 weeks, although not weaponize it onto a nuclear warhead, which is a critical piece. But they're getting very close, extremely close. And this is where the debate is how close, unknown about how close, discussion about our intelligence community saying that they had not made a decision to weaponize. The Israelis did feel that they had gone there. They had enough. It was a hair trigger. And so Israel, as we all know, launched strikes a little over a week ago. And what that meant, and I'll try to crystallize and I'll stop at this. What that meant is once Israel was in and bombing the country and eliminating its air defenses, and frankly, picking off and eliminating its senior leadership in the military and intelligence and IRGC and nuclear physicists, you name it. Israel was really conducting significant and effective bombing raids and taking major missile attacks into Israeli population areas. What that meant is that now is sort of like Pandora's box, the lid was ripped off. And it meant that, and not to use another trite phrase, we passed the point of no return, where now that Israel was in and bombing, if the bombing were to stop inconclusively and Iran's nuclear program were to stay there, it would be highly likely that it would take those final steps to weaponize and build a nuclear weapon, a crude device at a certain, most likely. And so it's like we're caught in this vice grip of, well, now that Israel's in there and doing it and they're already close enough, if we don't complete the task, then we're certain to have a nuclear weapon in Iran's hands. It's a horrifying place to be, a predicament that was predicted and should not have occurred. And the thing about it is that these strikes, we hope at this moment, because we're in 2025, right? We're no longer where we were a decade ago. We hope that they were effective. What comes next is anybody's guess. We, the United States, had offered Iran through Rubio and other channels to Iran off ramps, like have a civilian nuclear program and get rid of your enrichment program. Even President Trump apparently has reported that he wanted to meet with the supreme leader or the president, who's just underneath the supreme leader. Over the past week, the Turks tried to negotiate it. It didn't come together. There were diplomatic overtures, even as late as today, throughout different channels. None of that happened. None of that worked. So the question is, will there be diplomacy or will Iran retaliate? And if they retaliate, what will that look like? And then, of course, the old big question of what comes next in the broader region, what happens to the Iranian leadership, what happens with this Israeli military action? Does it now stop now that this major goal was achieved? A lot of unknowns. None of them answered. It's not a well-planned, well-thought-out overall strategy. It was a very focused, targeted strategy or action taken tonight. But, in the Middle East, the war seems to beget more war. But if there is a way to be sure that there are no nuclear weapons capabilities left in Iran, that is a major advancement. So I'll pause
So,
there.
so let's just park that in the pro column, right? So maybe we have that one pro column, like maybe for now we have
Right.
rendered the possibility, which, by the way, the intelligence community and Donald Trump and other people disagree on where they
Mm-hmm.
stood on that and where their progress was on that. We could debate that all day long, but let's just, for now, potentially park that in the pro column because well, it might be the only one over there in the pro column. Meanwhile, And I'm by no means an expert
Yeah.
on any of these things. I am
Well, you know
just
a
an
lot.
observer and somebody who listens to genius, brilliant people like you explain this in ways that I can understand. So, Joel, you said, you know, here are some of the things that we don't know yet. And when you hand the unknown to an asshole who bankrupted casinos and literally golfed through a pandemic, someone so inept, so incapable of navigating even the tiniest bit of the international or national crises. When you hand someone like that,
Yeah.
this, a moment like this, where all of those what if scenarios we haven't yet flushed out or fleshed out, or however that expression goes, and I've had wine because I was at a party. Did not
Fl-
mean to be at a
you
party.
flesh it out when it's really bad. You flesh it out when it's meaty. I don't know.
Thank
Is that
you.
right?
I don't know. That
It
kind of
seems
feels
strange.
gross. I feel
It's
like,
past 11 at night for me. So,
yeah, and
Saturday
you're wearing
night
a baseball
with
hat
no
backwards, and it's
alcohol in me.
adorable. I
Uh,
and again, friends, I'm
yeah,
at
here's my water. So,
like we're at
yeah.
we're at code level. I don't even know, but so let's just talk about, and a thank you to the 1,100 human beings who are listening to this drunk ass talking to my genius, amazing fucking friend who is so good at explaining this to all of us because it's like, I kind of understand this, but I don't. So, Joel, let's go to the non pro column or the potential really not pro column of what the implications of what just happened might be, will likely be, and what that means when we have someone like Donald fucking J for Genius Trump at the helm. Because, and I mean helm in air quotes, because this is not a person who is particularly deliberative. This is not a person who plays 4D chess. This is an impulsive, fucking short-sighted, goddamn asshole. So, with that commentary, what are we looking at in terms of the negative column here?
Well, with that as framing,
Yeah.
I'm
Look
not
at
going
me.
to take,
Look at
I'm
me and
not.
my nonpartisan lens, because that's what I'm known
Tell
for.
me what you really think. No.
Yeah.
So,
I think I
look,
need more wine.
I mean, the problem with these strikes, and these are problems that have been discussed for a long time amongst people who've been watching the Iran space, and I've had the let's say the burden, the pleasure, the I don't know what you want to call it, but the experience now
Curse.
going on like 15, 20 years of this in and out in different roles. For folks who may not know me, I worked in the State Department in the Bureau for Political Military Affairs and later Near Eastern Affairs, which is the Middle East Bureau. Then I went to Capitol Hill to the Senate and was the foreign policy staffer for a couple of senators. Then I spent a half a dozen years in policy advocacy in the nuclear weapons, nonproliferation space, and the Middle East space. Then went to serve in the Obama administration as our point person to the House of Representatives. Deputy Assistant Secretary is the title. It's like the senior person handling the work for the State Department with the House. And throughout all that, Iran was always part of this. And since that time, I've done a lot of work in the media and policy advocacy and Jewish organizations as well, progressive organizations, a whole mixture of stuff. I just love public policy and international and how these all integrate in politics. And I think the drama about Iran is that it is a real mixed bag. First of all, Iran, as we all know, because of Tucker Carlson, has 92 million people. Um, sorry, you're supposed to laugh at that.
Sorry, I'm looking at people commenting on me being tipsy. Sorry.
And so Iran is a big country. It's a diverse country. It's very pro-American, its population. It actually had a relationship with Israel until the Shah was deposed by the in the Iranian Revolution in '79. We've had highs and lows. We created a coup in 1953, which was something that I think Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State, even apologized for. We have a sordid history with Iran. They are very nationalistic. Clearly, we are too, but I think Iran it beats us out on that. A lot of hostility towards the United States. Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism, has been for a number of years, has used its paramilitary apparatus known as the IRGC to destabilize multiple countries in the Arab world to project power, created militias in Lebanon and Syria and Yemen, you name it, Gaza. It's been very active. And so throughout these years, it's been building a nuclear program. And so it's always seen as, oh my God, okay. So if this nuclear, and there's been diplomacy to try to stop it and whatnot, and we can get into that. Basically, the whole thing was if you hit Iran, meaning the United States, there could be serious consequences across the region. We have 40,000 plus troops in the region. The last time we hit their General Soleimani in January 2020, they shot ballistic missiles in Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq, wounding about 100 service members.
Stick a pin in that, Joel. Stick a pin in that.
Yeah, so that was one. Then they hit us in Jordan at another site in January of last year after we knocked down some of their missiles. They were shooting at Israel, killing 3 people in Jordan. And so they have a lot of targets that they can hit militarily of the United States. Second is they're adjacent to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. They could strafe Saudi Arabia's oil fields and burn them up to a crisp and cause a real global economic crisis. They could shoot down, knock out ships in shipping lanes in the Straits of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf and shut down global trade significantly there. They could unleash their terrorist network globally, which is global. They, remember, hit the Israeli embassy and the Jewish Community Center in Argentina in the 90s, killing hundreds. They have a lot of assets like that. So those are all areas where I hope to God that we're protected right now. I hope to God that our esteemed National Security Council, led by Marco Rubio and President Trump, is well planned and thought out and coordinated so that all of those contingencies are already accounted for and being prepared for. Yes. So we're like I'm like the play-by-play, and you're the color commentator. This is awesome. So, so those are some of the things. It could, I think for the Iranians, they really have pride. It's certainly this regime which represses its own people and tortures its people and executes and it's just it's a horrific human rights record, one of the worst in the planet. It could be unending what they could do. The question is can they really do it? Are they capable? Much of the proxy militia infrastructure that they relied on that was actually preventing the Israelis from striking Iran has been destroyed, like in Hezbollah, where it was always expected that if Israel bombed Iran, Hezbollah would shoot rockets into northern Israel, and thereby they hedged against it. But when Israel destroyed Hezbollah, suddenly they had free pass. So there's a lot that could happen. But are the capabilities there? And I think what this means ultimately is that we're now stuck, meaning we, the United States, along with whomever wants to be alongside us in this endeavor, in having to keep our eyes wider open now. Iran is not an ally or not an ally or partner right now. It wasn't a partner after the 2015 nuclear deal, but it was some type of an entity that we sort of moved away from worrying about. But that never really went away. And of course, we could fast forward October 7th and the support for terrorism. And clearly, they were behind much of that. So here we are, and we have to now keep an eye out for them. So this means that from a military, diplomatic, strategic perspective, we are now probably a little more stuck in the Middle East today than we were yesterday. We're going to need to put more assets and resources towards that. There is a thing called the Russia-Ukraine war over there, and then there's another thing called China over there that sort of have kind of like, impact on the world and on us. But the president made a decision that was rooted in this point that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, which is an appropriate objective. I just really, really have to emphasize again that nuclear deal that he got out of was preventing them from getting a nuclear weapon. But I also have to say that we are not in 2018. We're in 2025. And Humpty Dumpty was not able to be put back together again, nor even by Joe Biden, I have to say. God bless him. Biden, his team, they tried for 4 years to figure out how to deal with the Iranians, and the Iranians didn't want to play ball. They did not negotiate directly with Biden's team in the first couple of years of the administration before October 7th, which really kind of blew up everything, quite literally, and then diplomatically with Iran. They kind of turned their back on him and demanded a better deal, a different deal. They didn't take the opportunity with Biden. Maybe they thought they could get a better deal with Trump because remember, he ran on a peacemaking platform. But but I digress. So now I think we're stuck a little more in the Middle East today than we were yesterday. A lot more potential chaos, and also likely in Iran without a nuclear weapon.
Okay, well, so again,
how's that for clarity?
That's good. Column A. We're still parking Iran without a nuclear weapon over there in column A.
Sorry, guys. There, I'm gonna hide. I usually have my hair nicely coiffed when I go on TV, so I'm highly embarrassed right now.
Look, we're keeping it real. You look like a real human being who responded to my request to explain this to the people, the good people. We have 1,400, by the way, right now. 1,400 people who would like very much to see me drink more wine and show my dress because I wore a fancy dress with a bow. There's a bow in the back, and I wore a fancy dress tonight to a gala so we could talk about the promise of the Democratic Party. And in the
not tonight. Sorry.
Because you can't take a shit in this administration, friends. You can't go to the bathroom. Can't do anything without coming out of it being like, by the way, we're at war with Iran. You can't exist. And this is a real thing. Oh, yes, I have had wine. Yes,
I need some alcohol, but I can't. I'm going on TV. I have 6 TV hits tomorrow on CNN, MSNBC, and
only 6?
News Nation and Bloomberg. Yeah. They're gonna get sick of me, but what the hell?
I have 6 hits of wine to have in this conversation because look, it's insane, and it's insane that we're supposed to just exist and go about our lives in the midst of this fucking chaos. But Joel, with all of the one thing over here in column A that is good, that is Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon right now, and the 15 trillion things over there in column B, which are, we have a goddamn fucking incompetent madman who let 1 million of us die because he was busy golfing and denying the existence of science at the helm, who can't negotiate his way out of a fucking urinal cake, let alone a crisis in the fucking Middle East. I'm not shitting you. I don't think that guy could get his way out of a urinal cake. I don't even know if his diaper would allow him to entertain the idea of a urinal cake. Nonetheless, I've had wine. I digress. But Joel, here's the number one question a lot of people have. This is the number one question I have. Every Republican who has cut their own dick and balls off to accommodate this motherfucker's unilateral decision to use powers, I would like very much to know if he actually has or doesn't have, or if the power to declare basically war on another country is Congress's job. Help.
Okay, so you are now zooming in on the default message of the Democratic Party in the national security crisis, which is, hey, we should have a vote. I'm sorry. It's Saturday night.
Are you drunk, Joel? Are you?
No, I'm not drunk, but I don't know,
Oh,
damn it. I mean, yes, Democrats should have a vote. Do they really want to have a vote? Maybe. But anyways, technically speaking, the president needs to notify Congress within 48 hours of taking an offensive military action under the War Powers Act, and then has up to 60 days to continue said action. All right, fine. So he probably fulfilled the War Powers Act. He probably did. And because it's sort of like Swiss cheese when it comes to policy. I mean, look, the War Powers Resolution 1973, Vietnam era stuff. There's another thing called Authorization for Use of Military Force, AUMF. And when we invaded Iraq, in 2003. In 2002, we passed an AUMF. Basically, the Congress did. Democrats split 50-50 in the Senate, and essentially giving the president the authority if he decided to, as opposed to saying do it, right? There was no declaration of war. That's the other one. This is a I'm not going to go geek wonk on you, but like
Oh,
this is
go
a
geek
bit
wonk. People want
geek
the geek
wonk.
wonk.
You
And
ready?
by the way, Joel, by the way, when you geek wonk on the UN, because we have questions in the chat about the UN, and you and I had a conversation about this on my Samish podcast, Shameful Plug, about you talking about W going in front of the UN. So geek wonk, and please get there too.
Oh, Saturday night dork time. Okay, so
Let's go. Cool.
national security policy making. All right. So basically, the commander in chief has extraordinary authorities to do whatever he wants, he or she, I should say. But I don't know which pronoun. I'll say he in this case. They have.
Asshole. His pronoun is asshole.
I am Gen X, so I'm still probably just going to say like he or she. But I don't know.
Douche bag.
What?
Oh my God!
But
just
the one has a lot of authority.
Sorry. I just pulled my underwear down.
I'm trying to have a serious point here.
I meant to pull my dress down and I pulled my underwear down. Okay, sorry.
1,500 people. That's alive. So yeah, basically, the president. I will get there. No, but the president can do whatever the hell they want. Basically, that's the sad reality. Look, first of all, if we are struck, automatically the president has authority to respond. That is within the War Powers Act. If the president declares war, seeks congressional declaration of war, that's another way to do it. If there's an AUMF, that is another way to do it, where Congress authorizes the president. I think what they're going to say in this case, if they haven't already, is that it was a defensive action due to ongoing hostilities with Iran over the years. Iran attacked last year. Iran's a terrorist state. And they'll find some other legalese, weasel words to justify it. Now, what was happening in Congress is that right now, poor Tim Kaine, he was working really hard over the last couple of days to try to get.
Saw him the other day.
He's a good man, and he was trying to get a resolution on the floor, privileged joint resolution that would authorize or not under the War Powers Resolution. And then in the House, Ro Khanna and Tom Massey were sort of doing the horseshoe partnership of like extreme left, extreme right on this question.
That's crazy.
And basically say, essentially similar, but not a privileged resolution. And Senator Sanders, Bernie Sanders, was doing something tied to like no support for Israel or intelligence sharing, I think. So basically, the Kaine resolution was like the primary vehicle that was going to be in Congress for discussion, and that was going to be this week. It's going to be very interesting this week to see if it makes the floor, because a privilege resolution can make the floor. And then what is it automatically? So then what's it going to look like? Is it going to authorize the president to do this? Is it going to say the president does not have authority? I don't know if they can, through a war powers resolution, say no authority. And I think that they would have to put forward some other language through this is no authorization for use of military force that will likely not be privileged. So I have a feeling something like this might not really make it in any way through Congress unless there's a bunch of Republicans willing to jump ship. And there's this sort of idea that there's a group of Republicans that really are against us getting into foreign wars. If they are, they're not in Congress. Maybe a few of them in the House. So the reality is that now the Democratic messaging is that this is unconstitutional and we should have a vote. I guess that's a good message at a certain level, but it's sort of processy. I think for the Dems to make a really strong message, it's less about process because, as you all heard from my convoluted, dorky policy discussion that I was trying to stay focused as Joe was dancing for us.
I
This is
wasn't. I
like,
was pulling my panties back up.
okay. And the wine. And so I couldn't, like I can't make heads or tails of the right policy. A lot of legislative people who do affairs, there's a lot of different ways to do this. It's called the sausage being made for a reason when you're talking about making legislation. So I think for Democrats over the next week, those who want to oppose this, it's going to have to be more on substance and less on process.
And when you're talking about a party that doesn't really exist in the process and or actual substance realm, this becomes complicated. And then you have Americans, like in our chat here, Joel, the 1,600 human beings who are paying attention to this conversation at 11:35 at night. And guys, thank you. I am embarrassed, although I'm not.
Hopefully we're entertaining.
I mean,
I'm
look,
sure we are. Joe is entertaining. I'm trying
I
my
was
best to keep
playing with
up.
my panties, but not an OnlyFans kind of way. Sorry, trolls. But like they were bunched up. When you ladies are wearing a fancy dress and your panties, you know what happens. And then you're like, oh my god, my panties, whatever. It wasn't intended to be naughty or sexy. And Lord knows I don't shrug away from naughty or sexy. But sorry, I digress. Have I mentioned, Joel?
Father of 3 daughters. I don't need to know
Sorry.
about these. No.
Mother of 2 who are literally probably dying, but that they don't know what to stop. Anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. And it's like people don't. I feel like we're looking at this thing going, okay, this is another example of Donald Trump pushing the limits of his power, testing the limits of his power, testing his own party's ability to push back, because there are plenty in his party, in his cult of a party, who have been very clearly opposed to this very thing happening right now. And I want to know, and I bet a lot of people in the chat want to know, well, I think we can all guess, what are those people going to, are they going to continue criticizing him and calling him out and saying he's wrong? Or are they all going to fall in line like fucking lemmings?
So I'm going to make it even more complex. Here's an interesting thing. A lot of the anti-Trump Republicans from the past 6-8 years that we've seen are actually national security hawks.
Mm-hmm.
John Bolton, Bill Kristol, Olivia Troy,
Miles Taylor.
Miles. I was thinking Miles. These are not like
John Kelly.
bingo. These are not left wingers on foreign policy. And so somewhere in their gut, they're like happy, right? So that's complex. There's another layer, which is that Trump kind of duped a lot of Democratic voters into thinking he was anti-war, or maybe they were so desperate because they blamed Joe Biden for the war between Israel and Gaza, which I believe is Hamas's fault and Israel's fault for being involved in that war, but not America's fault. And they blamed Biden and, by extension, Kamala so much that they supported Trump, thinking he would end Middle East wars, which, of course, we've seen them only deepen on his watch. So, I think it's sort of going to be like those Republicans are really worried about the deficit, really worried about the deficit. So worried about the trillions of dollars of debt piling up from that abomination BBB bill that they have. So worried that they voted.
Bill.
So worried about it that they voted for it. And that's, I think, where we're heading. But, I think it's interesting. What they'll try to frame this as, the Trump team, is this is America first. They'll say what this is like, we're not getting into endless wars on the ground. We're not launching troops. We're just sending bombs and walking away.
Just.
I mean, so it's like the whole concept of America first foreign policy is laughable, right? In that way. Again, own it if you want to do this action. Make a rational argument for why it makes sense at this moment. But the idea that it's somehow cloaked in some mysterious new vision of America first in the world is such poppycock.
Poppycock is a
I,
good.
I mean, come on. It's just old school bombing. And this is what we do. This is a lot of America's military history around the world. And it's just bombing. Now, the bombing is of a nuclear facility set. I'm confident a lot of people died. I don't
Jesus
know.
God.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure we'll find out. But,
Wait, are you sure we'll find out? Because I'm not.
well, I mean, somebody's going to know.
Joel, I want to just sort of the thing I
Yes.
stuck a pin in earlier, and I would like you very
And
much.
I'm
Yeah.
going a lot of different directions here because your wine is making me a little tipsy, even though I don't have any.
No,
So
sorry, and no, I don't. No, I want you to, if it's possible, I want you to like literally just stick a pin here and keep going where you were going because it's incredibly important. And like we have 1,700 people now listening and watching, and thank you guys. Like fucking thank you.
it's awesome.
No, Joel and I don't do this for ourselves. Like this is like he just jumped on with an adorable baseball hat backwards, and I jumped on very tipsy from a party that I was at for the Democratic Party. But what I would like to ask you again is to go back. I stuck a pin in this earlier. We were talking about like something related to the ramifications of this and when we attacked or assassinated Soleimani and those attacks on our troops where we had traumatic brain injuries that Donald Trump downplayed, right? Donald Trump said those weren't really traumatic injuries, but when you talk about traumatic injuries you're losing limbs and legs, and these were people who just had headaches. And so I want to kind of park something there, which is that this is a commander in chief, so to speak, that doesn't really give a shit. But I want to talk about again, like the Iranians are not going to fuck around. They do have the capacity to hurt Americans. They have the capacity to hurt our troops. And like that's not an abstract and it's not a partisan issue. So I kind of want to go back and before you move forward, I want to go back to the fact that Donald Trump has long established that he doesn't actually care about what happens as a repercussion of his actions and how that's different from other commanders in chief that we've had.
Long-term planning is not his strong suit. Um,
It's got the bankrupted casinos. Clearly, that's not as strong.
I mean, it doesn't affect him, so it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
And I think that sort of nihilistic, shallow type of leadership is deeply disconcerting, and troubling, and likely to get people hurt. Um, I think if we were to really care about America's role in the world and influencing it properly, what we would first do right now is turn back the Doge cuts that killed USAID that I've been talking to people at the State Department, and like bringing USAID into the State Department's a fiasco. It's a disaster. Like that's how we project power and influence. That's how we engage people around the world. We would reverse the cuts to the Voice of America and be able to tell the people in Iran through the Persian radio service that the VOA used to have, but doesn't exist anymore, that we're not there to kill them all. There's so many tools that we had as a country to get our message out. And then to your point about soldiers and service members, belittling their service, minimizing their pain, taking away their veterans benefits. The Veterans Administration, the VA, had massive layoffs. Another thing that I want to point out also is when Doge laid off people across the government. There's a higher percent, I don't know what the exact data is, but a significant percent of federal workers who are veterans because of veterans preference hiring, which is to help people get back into society. It's deserved and an earned benefit. And those are some of the people who were fired first. So this decision is not done to somehow uh, 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 take care of these people or watch out for them. Um, the decision was done because of a hard security problem that needed an immediate cauterization, I believe, from his perspective. But the ramifications and the planning, we have a National Security Council staff that's basically been cut in half, from like 450 to like 260, something like that, people. Yeah, so it's a lot smaller, and that staff actually coordinates and organizes all of the government to be able to manage and handle crises in this kind of situation. So to your point, yeah, I'm a little nervous. I'm a lot nervous. I'm nervous about the intelligence community that reports to Tulsi Gabbard as the integrator of all of the information about the threats that are out there. Is she up to the job? Does she have the confidence of the president?
No.
Um, is she talking to the Russians? I mean, I
Right.
don't know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of questions out there. So these are a lot of the downside risks of what we just did tonight. That said, and I will just pause and say it, that said, these structural risks existed yesterday and they'll exist tomorrow, irrespective of the bombing tonight. What he has done to our position globally has been incredibly damaging, and to our ability to manage international crises. He has weakened it. So it's very odd that. Am I boring you? No, it's
No.
very.
I had too much to drink at a party.
No,
Sorry,
I'm
guys.
having fun. Last thing
Sorry.
I'll say is, no, this is great. Is it's very odd that he would take a high risk shot like this, which is sort of out of context of many of the decisions and things he's been saying for a number of months. And so I don't know if we're prepared, right? And that's what will keep me up tonight is this question of are we prepared for what comes next? Are our allies in sync with us? Do the Jordanians know what's coming? Are there sleeper cells across Latin America that are Mexican friends who love us so much? You
Yeah.
know, are
The
they
whole world
ready to?
loves us so much. Yeah.
I mean, look, they're are they gonna really work with us right now? How proactive will they be with the US government on intelligence sharing right now? Um there are a lot of structural questions that we rely on, information. We rely on um, our partners, and they rely on us. And the trust factor has been devastated. And I saw there's a pissed off Canadian in there, and I appreciate that because let's think about Canada. They don't really trust us the way they used to. Do they share with us everything they know about threats that are coming across the
I
border?
wouldn't.
I mean, I assume they probably will just because they care about the American people, but like you shouldn't have to even question that. And so it's like these are structural issues that have been created that should not be there, that were not there under Joe Biden when he was trying to reestablish our leadership globally. That's what leadership means, is it gives you the ability to deal with a variety of dangerous scenarios. And right now, because of this bombing, will have a variety of dangerous scenarios coming our way.
So, Joel, like before we wrap, and now we have 1,800 people. Hi, guys, and thank you for tuning in. And if you didn't see me messing with my panties earlier, I'm sorry, or I'm
That's
not sorry.
what
I'm not really sure.
the word got out or something. So
Yeah, I
now
don't know.
the
And
numbers
like
keep
literally,
climbing.
I was like an OnlyFans of like Joe, like fully clothed and like messing with her panties. But I was wearing panties, which is not a given. But anyway, I digress. I've had too much drink. But my friend, my friend Michelle Kinney, who is a genius and really a keenly wise observer of things, often says that what we suffer from is a lack of imagination. And there is this part of me that thinks that so much, yeah, JoJo After Dark. Lordy, nobody needs that, friends. I swear, nobody needs that. But Michelle often says that we cannot suffer from a lack of imagination. And one of the things that keeps coming up in my head, and guys, tell me in the chat if you think that I'm insane, but like, I don't think so. I think, Joel, I wonder if this destabilizing shit that there is no plan on the other side of isn't somehow part of a larger plan to destabilize everything so that there is mass chaos. Because, I mean, Lord knows Donald Trump is really good at fucking shit up and not having an exit strategy, right? But like, I don't necessarily know that that is always just his ineptitude and his incompetence. I sometimes think, and maybe this again, guys, help me out. Help me in the chat. Help tell me if you think I'm being crazy by thinking that destabilizing the whole fucking world doesn't play into his hand of destabilizing our country and then in that chaos yielding and taking more unilateral power.
Well, now that you bring it up, I wrote a Substack at the Briefing Book a couple of weeks ago about the dangers and the risks of deploying our military on the streets of LA when we have threats abroad. And we need to be thinking about those threats abroad. And I think and not waste our manpower on unnecessary problems at home that the local police can handle, and instead of militarizing it, right? So he's testing and poking and prodding. I think there's a lot to what you're talking about, which is the chaos theory of creation, the sort of like madman theory of international relations, where everybody gets scared of you because you're the madman, and he thinks the madman, the chaos, is going to make us stronger, more powerful, and more effective. It is a worry. It's a big worry because if even if he's not choosing to do it, the creation of chaos in and of itself is an inherently destabilizing act that will have and does have blowback. We were very confident in the 90s that we were supporting, or in the 80s, I'm sorry, supporting the right people against the Soviet Union, called Mujahideen in Afghanistan. They were on our side. They were our team. We got rid of the Soviets. They got pushed out of Afghanistan. Of course, those were the people who had someone named Osama bin Laden on their side.
The Taliban.
The long arc of history.
Yeah.
So I think the way to mitigate that is to have structure and organized diplomacy, national security policy, a plan. You bring people together. There are ways to do this. I fear that we're not going to see them. And that's the problem. It's sort of like we're not going to really mobilize our allies effectively and let our adversaries know effectively what it is that we're expecting in the next phase. Just sort of throw it up in the air and see what happens. Let's see what happens. Who knows? That is highly risky. That is highly risky. All that said, I still have to say, and maybe I'm a diehard on this one, but like, the Iran with a nuclear weapon was something I fought against for a number of years through diplomacy. And I got to say, if they had attained one, it would be so much more dangerous and frightening to see that country. And they were moving there fast, and they were building a capacity, and they were on the edge, and they were getting there even during the negotiations over the last couple months. And so this just goes to the bigger point of what we're talking about, which is, it didn't have to be this way. We had a nuclear agreement. Trump created the chaos that he now, and I've said this to you before, through karma, like karma's a bitch, and he had to deal with it. And it had to be dealt with, but it shouldn't have had to be dealt with. And so it's that blasé attitude that's sort of like, shoulder shrug about international affairs and how we deal with the world, that creates nightmare scenarios. And so sweet dreams, everybody, tonight, because this is a bit of a nightmare scenario.
Well, we're not gonna end on the nightmare scenario thing, not. But like, I just want to say this because so much of Trumpism is this idea of some entity, or some group.
Life
Like,
is hard, but harder when you're stupid. I'm sorry. That was a
well,
great comment. I love that comment.
who said
Sorry.
that? Somebody said that.
I missed you. It flipped away, but that was great. Life is
It's
hard, but harder when you're stupid.
I mean, I've honestly said this many, many times, including today. There are many like cults of dumb fucks, but this is the dumb fuckiest cult of all time. Like, whatever. Like, they're the most willfully dumb fucky stupid cult of all time. But what we see so often is this party that's like, I don't know if you guys remember this, and you might not, but like, do you guys remember that lady who had a chimpanzee and it literally ripped her fucking face off, right? Like, it like literally ripped her face off. And I know we talk about like the animals eating people faces party, but like, so much of this is about MAGA feeding this beast, feeding this wild animal over and over again. They're feeding it red meat all the time because it serves their needs. Like, somehow it pleases or appeases or serves them in some way. But it's this wild animal. They think, oh, we've got this wild animal under control because we keep feeding it. But the wild animal doesn't want the fucking food. At some point, it wants more. They always want more. And they're wild, and they're always going to come for more, whether it's your face or your fucking arm, or if you're Siegfried and Roy, it's your fucking throat, or whatever it is. And that's MAGA. Like, that's MAGA. They every single fucking time, and we're looking at it again right now. I feel like this is the thing where like, it's like, oh yes, we support this now. Like, the people who didn't support him, no new wars people, are suddenly like, yes, this is American strength. This shit is gonna come back and bite you in the fucking ass. This shit is gonna eat your goddamn fucking face, friends. And you tell me you're worried about the border? You should be worried about the motherfuckers who are going to come here on airplanes with a vendetta and a mission to pay back what is happening to them and their countries right now. And that's the shit that drives me the craziest. That is short-sighted MAGA to a T, because they're like, give me instantaneous gratification of owning them, those people, the brown people, the dog and cat eaters who are coming for my job and my daughter and my wife and my life and my country. That's not true. What's going to happen, friends, is what you've created is an international environment where we are going to be set with retribution like we have never seen. And again, I think that feeds into this narrative of giving Donald Trump the opportunity to say, we just got attacked. This is what we told you was going to happen. This is Joe Biden's fault. We now need to seize more control and power than we've ever had before. And like, hey, friends, you're feeding right the fuck into it. Sorry.
No. Compelling. I really hope that's not where we head. But I hear you, and I worry about it. I got a text from a friend. Is this a nightmare scenario? And I think the way to answer that is only if we let it be so, right? And it's a nightmare scenario if we turn away from this. It's a nightmare scenario if we don't think critically about how to push back on maneuvers that harm us as a country. And so I think, we'll look at this. This is an attack. This is a bombing raid that we took as a country. We're responsible for it as a country. It was Trump's decision, but we are now all part of it. But it didn't come in isolation. And there's a context here that needs to be shaped. And so as we shape it, when Democrats, for example, make their arguments next week, I hope they make a little bit more of the arguments like what Joe is making, and they make some arguments about, where are we heading as a society, as a country? How are we engaging the world? What are we doing? What is our plans? What are we doing to make sure that we're safe and that our friends are safe? What's the strategy here? What is that? Because it's not just one tactical choice to another where an ADD sort of impulsive decision maker, just wakes up one day and decides today's the day to bomb. Oh, today's the day to pardon all 1,600 January 6th insurrectionists because I don't really want to deal with reviewing all their files. It's so much work. Okay. So like, I think that's really key. And I think for folks as we engage over the next coming days on this, as you think about it, you talk to people, that's what we need to be pushing our elected leaders to do also. Don't just go like, oh, well, we needed a vote and we didn't get a vote, so he's bad. No. Force them to ask some harder questions and make some more critical questions and ask them what are they doing to protect USAID and the State Department. Get them a little more substantive as well. You can hear my oblique criticism of my team here because I think we could do better.
Guys, I listen to me. Like Joel, we have a 1,900 people watching this right now.
It's
And I
amazing.
just want to say, like, that's not me. That's Joel. That is the magic, the like
Yeah.
really truly fucking unbelievable power of Joel Rubin, who has this ability that I have never met anybody else in my life. And my dad was a very smart man who was able to explain really complicated things to me in a way that made me want to engage with political issues. Joel has a way of telling the world, the people listening about what's happening that is really complicated, that is so approachable and understandable and digestible and real. Joel, we're friends. Like, we're really good friends. And I tell you this all the time. And other people who listen to you talk tell you this all the time. And yes, I have had a lot of wine, but it does not. I told you this. It's bone sober, like, but bone sober. That sounds a sex thing. Whatever. No, you know what I'm saying. And Joel, again, to
Thanks,
everybody
Joe.
on this live, like all 1,900 people, this is a very scary, uncertain, like tricky, nuanced, weird, fucking anxious time to be alive. And when you have someone who has the ability to come in and explain things in a way that is approachable and understandable and user friendly and real, it's a gift. It's a gift because it's the antidote to the gaslighting and the perpetual like crazy that is coming from the other side. You need somebody sane. We got 2,000 people now. You need somebody sane or sane
Big.
adjacent or sane-ish who can come in to this moment and meet the moment in real time. Because Joel, look, I came back from this freaking party in Florida, and I was like, Joel, can you jump on a live with me? He's like, I'm wearing a baseball hat. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. I can't explain this to people. People are freaked the fuck out. Like, I was at this party, and in the midst of the party, everybody's like, "We just bombed Iran." Like, it was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" And like, there's no answers. And I'm at a party with elected officials. There's a lot of people out
Crazy.
there who are
Yeah.
like just living lives, going,
Hmm.
"What does this mean?" Like I told you, I don't know if I told you this, Joel, but like maybe I did, or maybe I think I did. Abby, like several days ago. She woke up and the first question on her mind, she's 12 years fucking old. The first question on her mind was, Mom, if they nuke New York City, do we die? I was like,
Yeah.
who's they? She goes, Iran. I'm like, why do you think Iran? Well, she said, Iran. I told you this. Why do you think Iran is going to nuke us, nuke New York? And she said, aren't we going to war with them? She's 12, right? So if my daughter at 12 is consuming this much news and it puts her there, what's the rest of America looking at right now? And that's why, Joel, my friend, I cannot speak enough about the virtues of what you do because it can be really intimidating to a lot of people to engage with this stuff. And yet, at the same time, they're freaked the fuck out. So they need people who can explain it. They need people who can speak truth to this stuff. They need people who don't seem like they're really driven by some political agenda because you're not. And if anybody thought that you were, they would be listening to what you said, because what you said tonight was some things that would give you some shit from the other side, which is, you know what? look, a non-nuclear Iran is a good thing. That's something that a lot of Democrats won't say. But you said it. And so, again, if that speaks to anything, it speaks to your integrity. But the fact that you can deliver information about these incredibly important and nuanced and intricate and difficult and things that impact all of us in such a way that, like, some idiot like me can understand them on 6,500 glasses of wine. Um, Joel, that is a gift, and I am so fucking grateful. And if you guys are not subscribed to the briefing book, and if you're not watching him on MSNBC and CNN every fucking day of the week, because he's on there all the time. He's on there all the time for this reason, by the way.
Yeah,
Please, like, if I could implore you to do anything, I don't trust or like anybody. I really don't. And I fucking love my friend Joel, and I'm so grateful for him. This is a really
I
fucked up
gotcha.
time. It's a
Yes.
really fucked up time. We need people we can trust out there with good motivations, and that is Joel Rubin.
I am so humble, Joe. You're the greatest.
Holy
Um,
shit, Joel. So what do we just tell me what we should be looking for in like days, hours, minutes?
um, I think just watch what the Iranians say next. What they do, of course, but what they say. I have a feeling they're not going to say anything that is music to our ears. And then we'll see if they take actions against it. The biggest risk, and I'll close with this, has been um, probably the best interview I've had on Iran because we're going into it in a real way. And I want to compliment you back, Joe, because what you're doing is you're bringing passion of real America and a real person and a real mom and a real activist who wants to know what the fuck is going on and give it to me straight. And that is such a service and an inspiration. And I think really what we need now, cutting through the garbage and cutting through the overdone analyses and the diplo speak and all of that, and just cutting through the filters. Maybe that's the best way, and getting it straight, right? And that's what you're doing here, and that's what you're pushing me in ways that I think help me comprehend better what we're witnessing and experiencing too. I think just to get to answer your question, you know, one thing the president said tonight that gives me a little bit of pause, and this is where the debate could turn, is he did leave open the option of going back and doing more. And if the Iranians continue to engage, or if they do engage, or if they kill Americans, because up till now, remember, they haven't really in this conflict, that that is where we enter the slippery slope and go beyond the attack on the nuclear program. And so that's what I'll be watching for, the Iranian reaction and the answers that come out of the White House if they can. And I don't think they'll be able to give a straight answer on this, but what does that other part, that sense of we could do more if you don't react the way we want, what does that mean? That gets me nervous, that part. Maybe it's just meant as a rhetorical threat, which, to be honest, if you're the Iranian leadership right now after what they just went through tonight, you should probably take that threat seriously. But I don't know if that works with these folks. In fact, it typically doesn't. So we'll see.
I,
That's what I'm looking for.
and I would honestly say, Joel, and this is something that worries me. Like, it used to be very traditional to say, hold your elected officials to account and call them and voice your concern and voice your opposition. And I don't know if we live in that world anymore. I don't know if we live in a world. I hope we do. I hope we live in a world where that action, those phone calls, that, resistance can actually move the needle. But I'm concerned because you see Joni Ernst sort of like doubling down on the awfulness of just her existence and not giving a shit about what is clearly offending her electorate. Like, then you're like,
Gotcha.
does anything actually move the needle? But like, I would still implore people to voice their concern. But like, you know, in a perfect world, in an old school world, I would direct people to like calling the Republican members of Congress, and some part of me still wants to do that, but like, and I will still do that because I don't think that it's, necessarily an exercise of futility, but I don't know how much they're heeding, those concerns. So like, what can we do?
I mean, we have to do what you're describing, and we have to also recognize, again, going back to what we were saying a moment ago, we have to give the language and the political support to the people who have power to do what is necessary to ensure that the right policies are being followed. And if that means, in this case, telling members of Congress that they have the support to demand a better strategy on where we stand in the world, on what our role is in the diplomacy of the aftershocks of this, in holding the president's feet to the fire on all of his words, and continuing to push members of Congress to literally be aggressive and not passive, and not just complain about a vote not being there, but actually lay out principles and policies and positions and advocate for it. That's what we need to demand. Because even though Democrats, put on my partisan header, even though Dems are in the minority in the House and the Senate and don't have the White House, we still have elected Dems. They still have a role to play. So take it. Congress has been AWOL. Okay. So Speaker Johnson doesn't want to, do his job. We get it, but Democrats need to do it. And I think you saw, not just, Joe and I caught up for everyone last week when she was at the Senate, and we saw the Senate Democrats doing a non-official hearing on that bill. That's what you got to do, right? They got to lead. They got to put ideas forward. They got to try to set a vision. And in the case of issues of war and peace, that means they have to have that too. Now you're getting me past midnight. So I'll say one of my pet peeve complaints about the Democratic Party is we literally don't pay attention to foreign policy. Our leadership literally thinks it's irrelevant, thinks that voters don't care, thinks that it's like we're always weak and the Republicans always look strong, and polls at the bottom. And it's like, okay, so then when a crisis happens, you have nothing to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you say the same thing in unison so it doesn't look really, you know, thoughtful, right? Like, we can and should do better as a party. And, I've seen it before. We've seen it before in 05, 06 during the Iraq War, and 07, 8, 9 in Obama. It can be done.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is like not wait until there's a crisis, but get ahead of the curve and invest in our own party's ability to actually develop and cultivate ideas and an image and a political power in the foreign policy space.
Okay. Well, we are going to end
There,
on
I'm
that.
done. I'm done with
Joel,
my rant.
Joel, that was like that. I was watching the comments, and by the way, thank you guys so much. 2,100 people now. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
being here at midnight. 12:12. Make a wish. But also thank you for your comments and participation, because what I talk about so often is like feeling seen in these truly insane times. Like just having somebody like Joel, who's so smart and so well versed and so aware of these issues in a way that I could never be, makes me, and having him like take the time to explain this shit to me, by the way, like that makes me feel validated, because I'm concerned, I'm worried, I'm confused, I'm outraged, I'm scared, and I'm looking for that like beacon in the fog of all of this. And I have found one consistently on these issues in particular in my friend Joel. And we all need that. Like, because if we're out there in the fog all by ourselves and we don't have a light to guide us in any way, shape, or form, it not only isolates us, but it makes us like stop seeking that port. And like, I know I'm going to kill that metaphor because I'm drunk, but like still, it's true. And like as tipsy as I am, like, I mean this from the bottom of my soul, like, to find somebody out there in this moment who you can actually trust isn't just motivated by some bullshit narrative that they need to propagate or whatever, lift up. It's a real gift to find somebody like Joel who is motivated by the right things. He's a dad of 3 girls. He's a person who started his journey in this world in the Peace Corps. He is a true patriot. I promise you. It's not like they co-opted that fucking term and turned it into some guy who's wrapping himself in a red, white, and blue snuggie. Joel is a patriot. And it's like, you guys know, and it's really infuriating to look at them like rebranding bullshit assholes as patriots. The real patriots are the Joel Rubins of this world. And in the
Oh,
moment tonight, like when we're like, holy shit, what do I do with this? Why am I freaked out? Like, what do I do? How do I understand this? This is a lot. Like, what was the origin of this? What do we do next? To have somebody like you, Joel, who can explain it to me and explain it to other people out there in a way that like makes sense, it's invaluable because there's so much gaslighting bullshit and propaganda coming from the other side. To have a truth teller to cut through all of that with like a lightsaber, that is a gift, and that is what you do.
thank you, Joe.
Well,
You're the best.
thank you, and I'm so sorry I was tipsy. I did not plan on any of this. I did not plan on having I thought I would have maybe one night, maybe 3 hours strung together. We wouldn't be going to war with a foreign entity, but here we are. And so sometimes you just do what you can with the moment. And guys, everybody out there, like, thank you for
Thank you, everybody.
thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We see you. Like, this
Mhm.
is fucked up, and if you're like me, you're wondering all the same questions I have. Like, all the same questions I asked, because I don't know what this means. I don't know the implications of this. I don't know how this is gonna impact our national security moving forward. I don't know what escalations are coming. I am worried about terrorist attacks too. I don't understand any of this, and so I lean on my friends like Joel to help me navigate this. And so if you're like me, because I'm keeping it real, then hopefully you were able to find something in what Joel said tonight that helps you go to bed tonight with a little bit more clarity on everything. Because I think that like information is the best tool and the best weapon that we have, and the thing they very much want to take from us. So Joel, and to that end, you are a true national treasure.
I'm speechless and honored, and always appreciate you and your audience. And thank you back at you, Joe, for being so awesome. And thank you to everybody for sticking with us and showing your heart and being part of this discussion. This is really valuable, and it means a lot, and it shows that people care, and that gives me hope. That gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, any opportunity we can to find hope in this dark time is welcome. And it's really hard to find it right now, but like we can find it in community, we can find it in each other, because what I always say is the only way out is through, and the only way through is together. So let's never lose sight of that. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, guys. Thank you so, so much. And I'm going to get some sleep if I don't pass out in hardcore. I still have half a glass of wine.
Yeah. And I'll be on News Nation tomorrow at 7:20 a.m. and
Oh,
and CNN at 9 a.m. and
Jesus.
a couple other throughout the day. I think
Joel has
MSNBC
6 hits
at like
tomorrow,
2.
guys.
I think MSNBC and 2 p.m. and another CNN stuff. I mean, I say that with humility, just just hopefully I'll be able to communicate as well tomorrow as I did tonight. So that means that the interviewer was the best. So thank you, Joe. You're the best.
Joel has 6 TV hits tomorrow, friends. If you
Yeah.
think that like this is just like me like talking to my friend, no, I know you don't know that. I know you don't think that. 6 cable TV hits tomorrow. This is a guy that I'm telling you, He has tapped into the way to communicate this stuff, and I am blessed and honored to consider him a friend and also, like, somebody who can talk to all of you in this very real and interactive way where he's seeing what you say and I see what you say, and, like, that's the difference. That's the difference. Like, we need to bridge that weird chasm in between what everybody out there is saying and feeling and thinking and what people are responding to. I'm so tired of that chasm in between, like, us and them. No more. No more. Like, that's why, like, Joel being on here tonight is just and answering, like, literally your questions in real time. Okay, get all verklempt, but I'm probably verklempt also because 'cause I'm a little drunk. But anyway, I'm very, God, I don't know what happened. I was, like, very fond, and then I went panties in my head because I was pulling my panties down earlier.
I think
I
you're good.
think that's when the wine just really hit. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks, Joel. And thank you
Thanks,
to
Joe.
2,100 amazing fucking human beings who have been here and are here. And you guys do me a favor. Promise me. Do me one favor. Talk to one person. Just talk to one person. For if you learned anything tonight, if you found anything that Joel said valuable, which Joel said 5 bazillion things that were valuable, please talk to one person because that one person might talk to one person and they might talk to one person. And that's how you do it. You don't have to knock doors. You don't have to make phone calls. You don't have to lick envelopes. You just have to talk to one person. And the truth needs voices. It needs advocates. It needs like warriors. And that is all of you. And I'm so grateful for you. And thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joe. It was
Right.
wonderful.
I'm gonna
It
go
was
pass
awesome.
out now.
Get some
So
sleep. You kicked ass.
I
You're
love you
awesome.
guys. I love you, Joel.
Love
Okay,
you
bye.
guys. Love you, Joe. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.